Can you hear me? Hi, everybody. How are you going today? Thank you so much for turning up, especially all those who made the effort to even come here for the meditation. That was so awesome. And not a lot of people really get the spiritual part that's involved in this. So the more that come and start to get in the flow of it will make a huge difference down the track. Love seeing you guys coming here every day and absorbing, of course. Cameras on, face showing. And we love it when you bring your kids also. Any questions, please write them in the chat in full, meaning by the time they are answered in our Q&A session at the end of the week. We need to know what is relevant to what the topic of the conversation was. So be specific. Really appreciate it. Darren and Joni put many hours into this each day to present something that's actually teaching you what it all means. So no question is silly or non-sequential. The more you ask, the more you will learn, but it makes sense when asking. The handout will be added at the end as usual, so your focus is on listening and learning rather than links and etc. going on into the chat and how to download them. Also, guys, for those that may not, save the link to this Zoom somewhere easy for you to find. It's always pinned in the message on Telegram, and then it's easy for you to jump on early and be prepared. And I'm saying all that. Thank you very much. And on to Darren and Jody. Thank you.
Serena, thank you.
Thank you so much, Serena. It's wonderful introductions. Okay, we know how this works. And you know how this works. And like I was just saying to Darren, look at this, same faces. It's great to see all of you. And here's the thing, when we start to see all of you and we keep reading all of your energies and we're seeing you all smile right now, we are connecting. Good. We're supposed to be. We should start having feelings for each other. We should start remembering one another. There's no way a group of people, men and women and teenagers, keep coming together unless we made a soul agreement. We're going to change that. We're not going to call it a soul contract anymore. That came through as a message real clear today. They're like, Jody, clear that up. Stop saying that. We made soul agreements. Doesn't that even resonate better? So on some level, you're digging this because this energy was implanted in you before you came here. This energy was supposed to wake you up. It was supposed to activate you. That's why it's intriguing. That's why I can do this endlessly all day. I love it. I can't get enough of it. Okay, so while I'm sharing screen, what wisdom do you have here?
Well, I guess we're going to start with our recap. Now, again, this is loved ones where the recaps are important. We're just going to always touch a little bit on what we talked about the day before, which touches on the day before, which touches on the day before. And again, we've kind of developed we discussed, okay, what's going to be the best way to layer this so that it really sticks, so that it takes the least amount of effort to recall it. And really, it's only through replication and repetition do we kind of get it there. But you'll see we move forward a little bit every day while we're still talking about what we talked about yesterday. So again, this is important because we're going to get to a point here where the substance matter or the things that we're talking about are going to start to switch. They're going to start to evolve. It's going to turn into, okay, now that we know what the problem is, how do we fix this problem? What do we do? Where do we start there? Now, again, this
equity
is
glasses.
Yeah. So we're actually trying to get you to develop your equity glasses so that when we start building things like notices, you're going to start to see some of these words that we're already talking about in these initial programs here. And then you're instantly going to recognize and have a feeling for these words. And then you're going to start to develop really, I don't want to say understanding again, but you're going to develop a knowing of what this is that we're talking about. You're actually going to start to sense the energy that's kind of pent up in this and why it needs to be released and why it should be released to a new party that we bring into the game.
This is why there's an energy building around this.
And again, this level, this is more important than most people think. Everybody just wants to say, okay, how do I get out of my speeding ticket? Well, how about we change that into how do I get out of my life problem? Not just a speeding ticket. Speeding tickets are
how do I come alive?
Yeah, that's we're trying to get people to think a little bit larger or a little bit bigger. Shoot for the moon, and if you hit a star, well, okay, that's pretty good.
Let's do a quick equity crayon recap. Okay, so yesterday we found out that we are all under a social contract. Now, what does that mean? Well, that means that you signed up for socialism. Why? Because you had, in order to become a member, you had to give up your individuality, your private being. You had to make yourself public, which is why it's social. Well, what does a socialist mean? It means you destroyed 99% of your personal and private property rights, also known as equity.
So socialist means that you're being governed, but at a level that we didn't even think was possible. You have absolutely no control over your life at all, virtually. You actually have to ask permission to literally do everything.
That's why we have to ask permission to do everything.
Yeah. So, I mean, you know, everyone is making decisions for you, and you need to play by the rules, or you/we/us, we go to jail. We get put into precarious situations. We lose stuff if we don't play by their rules. Problem is that we got a different set of rules that we're trying to play by, and we're trying to shift some gears here. So in order to shift gears, we had to understand how we agreed to pledge something or make a very serious promise to do something, or be, you know, you're going to be faithful to your contract. And this all happens when we all apply for our social security number or our social insurance number.
And that's most of the Commonwealth, loved ones.
All of the Commonwealth, not most, it's all.
There you go.
Yeah.
They all want you to get a little number. Goes right here. And everything you do, it adds up and it goes on your record. Now, this is the thing. With this situation, you need permission or a license from the government, like Darren said, to do anything. So that's socialism. Well, the next stop is communism. So, Ravina, why don't you explain again to us what communism means, please?
Absolutely. Thank you, Jody. Yes, it's complete abolition of private property, abolition of religion, of any rights. In fact, everything, even the God's inherent rights, have been given to the state. And the state decides for you where to work, what job you have to do, what you need to study, how much you need to eat, because even the food is distributed in ration. So you need to go and get your food. And yeah, you have no rights whatsoever. And I remember something about Albania, another thing, because I forgot yesterday to say it, was about if anyone tried to flee the country, if it was caught or not, it was considered an act of treason. And for generation, that family would be persecuted for someone else's decision to flee or not the country for generations, which is you really don't get salvation, as you say, no salvation in communism whatsoever. Yeah. Thank you.
So thank you. So what Rabina is trying to say here, loved ones, is when you are in socialism, remember how we said you gave away 99% of your rights, your property, which means we have a 1% chance of redeeming it. That's why we can talk right now. That's why we can offer remedy right now, because we have that 1%. When you are born and reside in a communist country, you don't even have that. The only way to get you out of your situation is you need someone to come over or to completely take over the world. That's the reality of this. This is why we're letting people really laying out this game of life, the monopoly. So you can start to see there are some people that are, okay, yeah, we got gum boots on, kind of sucks. We're in the water, we're in the sea, we have to pay taxes, but we got some nice houses. And there's other people among us that are up to their neck with no chance unless someone comes along, a mighty hand. We're going to talk about that tonight. A very mighty hand to get them out of the situation that they're in. And this is why, loved ones, we wanted to talk about the new definition of a good communism. Now, We're not promoting communism. We're just trying to show there's another side to it. What if there was a group of people where the leadership was righteous and just, where all of the wealth was shared evenly, and it was reset every 7 years, no matter what you signed, no matter what you did, everything was forgiven every 7 years. Imagine where no one held the power over his brother or sister through a corporation. Why? Because charity is going to be paramount. It's going to be one of the key foundations.
So here's the most key foundation. It's being supportive of each other. This is where we need to actually be considerate of each other. We have to be emotionally connected. We have to be spiritually connected. We have to be, we have to be more alive than we've ever been. So this supportive concept or idea, it's not consuming. It's not always taking. No, this plan that we're talking about, it's always giving. So a nation at peace, if there's no war, is made up of, natural men and women who invested. Now, again, this one word right here, invested, this is something that we've all probably heard before. This is where you might want to invest $100 in the stock market and hope that you make $1,000 from that one day. Or you invest time in your children. You invest time in Facebook. You invest time in or energy or love into almost all aspects of your life. It's always investing of some type. Now, here's
your life energy.
Yeah, our life energy it's going somewhere. So now here's the trick. Our little person here, that little certificate, that represents a whole bunch of important stuff if we choose to see it this way. So our idea here is we invest this person specifically back into the state from which it came.
So that gets us, and before we move into number 6, I want to talk to, when we talk everything is supportive, we're also talking about the animals. We're talking about the planet as well. Everything supports and helps one another.
There's no lack.
On all levels, all dimensions.
This might feel like this is impossible to do, but you know what? I got a feeling that's why we're all here. We're out to prove that wrong.
So getting into number 6, where Darren was talking about a nation at peace made up of natural men and women. So this is what he was talking about, where we actually realize, oh my God, we got to give this back, to get rid of the title, to clean up the hands, to give it back to the place in which it came, to the place in which we got tricked. No more. We're all alive. So number 7, the leadership will have a Christ-like feel. This is where we said, this has got to start resonating on some level. This is why I think we're seeing the same faces. This is going to seem absurd to some people and to other people addictive, where it's just all of a sudden you're like, oh, you wake up in the morning, you're like, whoa, I'm excited.
And what do we mean by the Christ-like feel? The Christ-like feels. Those feels, we're talking about, you are going to start having them.
AKA joy,
happiness,
giggles,
all the good stuff. When you are
positivity,
when you're living in that type of a state of being, everything about you starts to change.
Then things start changing on the outside world, because it has to change in here first.
People notice it
before this gets reflected back.
Absolutely.
Your works are completely reflective in what's going on in your life right now. Number 8, Father will always be the dictator.
Why? Because he dictates. He tells us what the hell to do and what not to do.
As he should. Who's gonna argue with that?
Yeah, that's a tough one.
It's a no-brainer on that one. This one, number 9, that the Creator's law will always be private. Does it make any sense that Father's law would be about dead things, idols, graven images,
sin,
monsters,
debt,
Frankensteins,
liability?
We could go on. Number 10, a nation with people entered into the book of life. We were talking about this. We're going to hit it again, because imagine the people, when they're around you, they're going to feel different. Do you notice people who've had certain things put in their bodies? They look different. They feel different. Conversations with them are a little off. It's going to become more and more apparent as you start to tune into this vibration.
And again, so just to talk on that book of life here real quick, that might sound like an absurd idea, but these halls of records, they are full of books. And what's in these books is more important than we could have imagined. Literally, when we play this game incorrectly, I shit you not, we're literally entered into the book of death because we've expressed no life. Not once. So therefore, how could we be in any other book?
Think of that and just feel the vibrational difference of that. Book of life. That sounds wonderful. Look at this little, like, there should be love and light. We're all in the book of death right now. And that's what's hard to hear. It's hard to admit. And that's why we keep making you put on this suit that you keep putting on every single day so that you know exactly what you're showing up for. So with that, we want to do a little small disclosure. This does not mean that we are pro-communism or we are pro-democracy even. We're just trying to show, like we mentioned before, there's a good side to everything. There's a yin and yang. There's, you know, like we said, good, evil. There's always polarity in something.
And here's the one thing that I'm kind of feeling is actually not bad about communism. It's where the state is literally trying to step in to at least level the playing field and give everybody a fair shake. Okay, now if they did that without all the negative stuff attached to it, we'd be off to a good start.
Or that they actually just shared the wealth.
There you go. That's exactly what I'm talking about.
The wealth's immense, and they find ways to shit on $1,000 toilets. They find things to ticket and bill. It's ridiculous. So now we're going to get into democracy, because a lot of people are like, well, I believe in democracy. Sounds much better. Has the word sovereign in there. Oh, well, let us teach you something about democracy. Red version, black law, please.
That form of government in which the sovereign power resides. Let's just hold the boat for a moment right here. Where the sovereign power resides. That means it just switched sides from something and now it's something else. It got taken from somewhere and stuck or placed somewhere else and is exercised by the whole body of free citizens. Okay, that's all great and dandy. Every citizen should participate directly in the business of governing. Really? Well, if we're talking about governing ourselves, maybe, where do I get the right to govern my neighbor? Nope, I don't have that right. So something's a little off with this so far. And the legislative assembly should comprise the whole people. Should comprise, well, that's a pretty broad term. We would like it to be should, but you know what? Very rarely is it. As a matter of fact, I don't think it is at all. Everything is done as an illusion. They give us just enough to keep it going so that we all just don't lose our minds and go crazy out in the streets. They had to maintain some little element of control. They have to give us a little something while they're taking a lot, but they have to do it very carefully, not to, wake up the dragon, if you know what I mean.
Your 2 weeks vacation for working 52 is a complete example of that. The little carrot. It's just such a little carrot, yet we look forward to it so much. So here's the Crayon version of democracy. The power shifts from the man or the woman and is given to our elected government officials who act for the public. Well, here's the problem with that. The public still has all of your God-given rights. So let's talk about electing and voting.
There's something called the Doctrine of Election. This means, the word doctrine means that this is a very rigid or very set kind of way of doing things. And it's been around for a very long time. This didn't just start happening 3 weeks ago. So the doctrine of election means that it's almost right, like elect, it's almost like we got half of the word of electricity. So we're talking about energy. So it's like you're giving your energy, or you're voting, or you're sticking or pledging that energy in someone else who you are choosing to participate in being a member of the public.
So I think the picture says 1,000 words. The guy is completely oblivious. He has no idea. So there's more.
The whole people becomes the individual, or becomes the one. The person, or the one, now holds the supreme power. Now it, he or she, or they in the background, decides everything on behalf of you. So now we, the people, have become, or now we're all employees of the one. That social security number, or that social insurance number, or again, one of these days I'm gonna have to look into what they call it in England, because I keep talking about that, but I still don't know what they call it over there. Point being, that is proof that you are an agent of the government in a public capacity, and you have waived or said goodbye to your private property rights. We've literally traded one for the other.
It's a big deal, loved ones.
It is a big deal.
So this is why we were saying we have a different concept here at Divergence. We're trying to flip that, completely subrogate it, change democracy, communism, republic, all of it, and replace it with equalism. Well, let's define equalism, because we weren't able to do that last time because we ran out of time.
And then here's a weird twist. I was thinking about this the other day, thinking, oh, I love this word equalism. I wondered, like, did I just come up with that? So I started Googling it. I'm like, oh, crap. No, it already exists. So anyway, moving forward, the technical version of it is the condition of possessing the same rights, privileges, and immunities, and being liable to the same duties. Equality is equity.
Say it again. What was that? Equality is equity.
There's even one of the maxims, and again, there are about 20 maxims of equity, which are one sentence kind of things in length. They're very powerful.
Huge.
They've got such tremendous impact, and these little guys have been around for thousands of years. They do not change. They are literally as hard as a rock. They're not going anywhere.
Like they're like 10 commandment energies.
So they actually have one of the 20 maxims is dedicated to, and I think we got this coming up, about equality and equity being very, very similar.
So doing the research, Darren says equalism. So I'm doing my research today, and I'm like, I can't find this word. Quality is the closest thing I can find in Black's Law, Oxford, all of it.
It's pretty.
So ironic.
I'd never really heard of it before.
And yet it represents equity.
So we'll take that.
I think we're on the right track here, loved ones. So let's do a little crayon for you. Feel this. This is Divergence mission statement. This is what we're all about, is making it fair. The crayon version of equalism to us is, it's the political perspective of love.
Love implies life. The legal system as we know it is all about the opposite of life. Therefore, a system that deals in the opposite of life cannot understand, appreciate, or see love. Not at all. It's actually removed. How do corporations have love?
How can dead things love?
See, they don't go together at all. Therefore, we should never be mixing the two. We should never be acting in person when we're actually trying to be in a loving environment, or when we're talking about love, or when we're expressing love. It just doesn't kind of work. Something's a little bit wrong here.
Equalism. Number 2, a concept of living and being that is simple, yet has a sympathetic symmetry, where all political obstacles are removed.
Again, why do we got to remove political obstacles? Well, here's why. All of our politicians and all of their downstream are always trying to create and invent things that continually spiral till no end. and they're always trying to profit from their little spinning things. They got these little gizmos always on the go, and they're little drips of money that wind up being buckets of money, that wind up being pools, lakes, oceans full of profitability, because they continually keep this game going. So while we're suggesting we can remove a lot of these obstacles by removing a lot of the processes that our politicians operate by. A lot of it is a waste of time. We don't need millions of these people to come up with some of these relatively simple, loving ideas as remedies or better ways of doing things.
So this allows progress to be made very quickly, loved ones, because the control is in the hands of who it's meant to be now. It's not the greedy. It's not the selfish. It's the meek. That's what the Bible talks about. Not corporations, not a bunch of dead people or their presidents. That's a big difference than what we're seeing here today. This is where the maxim comes in. Equity is a sort of equality.
So it's basically saying equity and equality are very close. They're very similar. Equity is sort of an equality. Again, like they're like kissing cousins. They have things that are similar, but again, they're not identical. They're not exactly the same, but they complement one another. They support each other. So when two individuals have an equal right, the property will be divided equally. In what circumstance would two individuals have an equal right to something? Can you imagine a man and a woman walking into a car dealership, pointing to a particular car at the exact same time as the salesmen are walking up, and they both say, I want that car. Well, and the salesman says, well, there's only one of those. So what are we going to do here? Okay, so something's going to give. So other than the car, imagine if those individuals are claiming to have a right to their dominion.
Oh.
We all have the same share of the earth as the meek.
You have to claim it.
We come forward and just say, hey, the moment I stop acting in person is the moment I qualify. That's literally how we claim it. It's literally going to be that simple at the end of the day. So we all have an equal share to our dominion, and it's all just sitting there waiting for us to take it.
Let's just move into the cartoons, loved ones. This is so cute. Thanks to Kim. I'll let you watch them. Okay, sorry about that, loved ones. I kind of cut Darren off. That was not my intention by any means. But we're going to move into the 10 Commandments. This channeling actually came through yesterday. And again, we've heard of the 10 Commandments. And for a lot of us, it's been a little while since we've been in school and learned this. And remember, we know the basics. Don't kill anyone. Don't steal. Oh, wait till you go through a few of these and learn some terminology and really see that the 10 Commandments is more of a checkbox for us. And you're going to see how many we've actually checked off as committing. And that was the big
Okay, yeah, just let me.
wow of
I was
this.
going to say, I'm going to just throw it out there. I bet you we break all of them. Just go back to that one for a second. I just want to give it just a quick. Okay, yeah, one done. Done.
Are you going to be a spoiler?
Done. Okay, so keeping the Sabbath day holy, that's going to be a little bit of an iffy one.
Yeah,
Honor your mother and
that's
father. Okay, that's so, yeah. Okay, well, most of us don't murder, that's for sure. Okay, so I'm going to say, yeah, we've already broken, 2/3 or 3/4 of these, most of us in our daily lives, just because we're that out of tune, we're that out of touch. And that leaves a lot of room for improvement. That leaves a lot of space for becoming what we were truly meant to be. Instead of just repeating all that old stuff, why aren't we doing something better? Why aren't we all charged up? Why aren't we really trying to find salvation that this book talks about? Why aren't we really trying to get out of Egypt again?
So let's refresh our loved ones. We need to remember that we got out of Egypt once before. We were saved from our stupidity once before. We got out of our bondage because he came in and helped us.
With a mighty hand.
That's coming up. Okay, so be clear. He got us out of Egypt and we walked our asses right back in.
So
how
again,
can we say that? Because of commandment number 8.
So just to touch on
verse 8.
And so just to touch on that a little bit more, their loved ones. So ancient Bible days, they're telling us all of our forefathers and ancestors and important people that were trying to do the good things or the right things, they were all taken as slaves virtually. Egypt was so large back in the day. Egypt was so big. It was such a powerhouse of a nation. It literally, I'm going to throw it out there, it probably controlled everything. So now when you have this incredibly powerful nation, and if you have some pharaohs, or if you have some kings, or if you have some queens that are doing things a little bit shady or a little bit to better themselves, they're seeking power. The ruling class always seems to really step on the lower people, or the people that don't have the riches, or that don't have the knowledge, or that don't have all these incredible things. It's like these really wealthy people are always treating the poor people badly, so badly that our Creator had to step in and literally rescue all the people that were worthy, all the people that had a good heart, and all the people that wanted to be charitable, and actually take them out of that whole slave environment, because it was just so bad and so corrupt. Something tremendously powerful had to be done to stop it.
So this is why Father Creator gave Moses 2 stones with some written laws saying, okay, I got your ass out once. Follow these 10 and you won't find yourself in this situation again. Very simple. So we're just on number 1, we haven't even hit number 1. That was just a preliminary, which this is Father saying, okay, kids, listen up. I'll save you once. But if you keep doing the same thing, after a while, what's a good father got to do? But we have to find our own way out. So let's read commandment number 2. Well, commandment number 1, don't have another God before me. Well, we're just going to skim over that one. We checked that one loud and clear. Number 2, though, do not make any graven image. And it was interesting because when I was doing this, getting this scripture ready, my team connected with me, and anyone who says spirit doesn't have a sense of humor, Just know my team cracks me up all day long. And they actually show that that was the end of the commandment. And then an angel was like, well, what if they make a graven image in the water? And the father's like, what? Are you serious? Okay, fine. Add the waters. And then another angel goes, Father, what if they make a graven image in the heavens? That is ridiculous, Father says, but fine. Put it in the heaven as well. Another angel goes, oh, I don't want to mention this, but just imagine, Father, if they make themselves like an earthly graven image. And Father says only a lunatic would do that. But fine, let's make it very clear. It's going to encompass the heavens, the earth, and the water. Does it leave any wiggle room?
No.
So when we actually look at that, I was like, wow, interesting. The next commandment, thou shalt not bow down nor serve them. And it talks about visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children for the next generations. What does that mean?
So it means that this curse is actually so bad. When your forefathers and your ancestors pledged allegiance to serve Caesar or Satan, that act alone would haunt you for several generations to come. Now, this is exactly what Ravina was talking about in Albania. When one individual of a family wanted to leave and got caught or otherwise, their whole family was shunned for generations. They're already in a very bad situation. Now it just gets a whole lot worse. So you can see why, what a terrible position to be in.
It's not good. And again, this is why they can predict our behavior. That if grandpa got a social insurance number and a birth certificate, and son got a birth certificate and a social insurance number, more than likely his child's going to get a social insurance number and birth certificate.
And here's a more technical way of phrasing that. The condition of the mother or father follows the offspring. So whatever mom and dad were doing, if they were debtors in that legal system, if they were lifeless, if they were sinners, then their children are automatically going to be the same thing unless they come and change it.
Next, thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain. Now, we've heard this one before. And it was really interesting because, again, tapping into the energy of the 10 Commandments, they said, let's just break that up, Jody. Let's just put quotations around some different letters of this chapter.
Okay, so when they're saying, thou shalt not take the name, that means we were all born with one name, a Christian name, as it's commonly called. So they take your good Christian name, that would be the Lord's name, for example. And then they attach another name to it called the surname. So now we got two names working together in the same individual. Why do they give you a name that is additional to your first name? Why? Because you can't take that first name into the legal system. You would literally be taking the good name in vain. You're going to be taking a good, clean name and bringing it right into the legal system. And the legal system actually says, no, you're not allowed to do that. Leave your good name out there.
No good allowed here.
No good is even allowed in here. So leave that out in the parking lot. And as you're coming in, we're going to give you a new name. But doink, right? They stick that onto you. Now come on in and enjoy everything.
Welcome.
Come. So taking the Lord's name in vain and going and making application for sin is impossible. They don't even let you do it. Interesting. But add another name to that first name, it changes the names altogether now.
The vibration.
The vibrations, everything is different. That is totally acceptable. Come on in.
So this whole time, when I read this, I used to get in trouble when I would say, Jesus Christ, or, oh my God, don't use the Lord's name in vain. Well, what do you think Father cares more about right now? Saying Jesus Christ or identifying as a dead thing? That's it.
Again, this
Let's
is where,
put this into perspective.
yeah, again, this is all about perspective. This is where some people will take things literally that they shouldn't, and then they don't take the things literally that they should. There's such a confusion going on out there regarding all the Bible stuff and all the religious teachings of the world. And we're here to help clean all that up.
All right. So our next one here, we're going to skip down to verse 15, where it says that remember that thou wast a servant in the land of Egypt, and God brought thee out with a mighty hand and a stretched out arm. So here's the thing, loved ones. If we know he got us out already, we walked our asses right back in. That means we're going to need another mighty hand to get us out.
Or mightier than the first one. If the first one was mighty and it didn't work, if we need we need something else, because we're so sleepy, we're so confused, we're so dazed. We need something a little bit better even. And again, this is why I keep talking about the Third Testament. This is where I think, when you extend a loving hand to help your neighbor, that is also a mighty hand.
Or coming back to help others come to life.
So now this
to get out of Egypt.
So now this is where, when a whole bunch of us start to have that type of a hand, and we actually start to extend it to help each other, you see how that hand could actually be even mightier than the first one?
Because it's not just one hand anymore, loved ones.
Yeah, it's a whole bunch of it now. Rather than one, we got a whole bunch of it. It's almost like
helping one another.
It's almost like it got cloned.
That feels better. All right, loved ones, we're going to talk about a topic. This is one of the commandments. Now, this is for our younger ones among our loved ones. And this is because we feel we need to give a little bit of a voice to them. And this is not for our youngsters to get all in their parents' face. This is for you to both use this as a way to get in tune with one another. The Bible speaks about honor thy mother and thy father. And as I was going through this scripture, I channeled a message. And the message was, the children of today are missing spiritual stimulation. And this is because most of their parents are offline. This is where the 2-week vacations come in. This is where the Facebook posts come in. This is where the look at me, I have to do things, I have to keep up to things, that they're so distracted in the game that we have children who are being born with extra DNA that are made more of a crystalline light, and their parents are so offline, they're putting things into their bodies, even when they're making them, that are changing the channel of these loved ones. The little ones are going offline, literally, physically. Do you think that's by design? Or is there maybe some ulterior motive going on where they want these loved ones shut off on purpose because they're afraid of these little ones, these rainbow children, these crystal children? I'll be teaching a little bit more information about that. The indigos that came in before them to clear the way for them, to get rid of this filth, the dirt that we see, the unfairness.
So the children are still on the land. The children are still in touch with Creator. The children are still attached to the whole life side of the equation, because they're not allowed to be brought into the book of death yet.
They're in the waiting pool.
Yeah, that's just not fair.
Before you get a SIN number, you're in the waiting pool.
That can't be done.
They got their little floaties on, their little juice boxes, just
Again,
waiting to enter.
So the children are out of bounds. They're off limits to Satan.
Mm-hmm.
He's not allowed to get in and play and manipulate them, although I'm going to throw it out there that I think he does, right? Why would Satan play by the rules? You know, it's nice to think that he would, as all wars are still fought according to rules. But something tells me that this one, he didn't pull, or she didn't pull any punches. This particular character targets children intentionally and uses agents of darkness to target and further bring harm to the children. And that's why
In music, in TV,
everything,
in video games, we're not telling you anything you don't know already. We're
so
just connecting some dots here.
so again, now this is where the children, or the younger ones, they recognize certain frequencies in their parents. They start to see things that are inconsistent, or they start to see things that don't quite line up with their little spirits. Believe it or not, their little spirits are cleaner than mom and dad's, because they haven't been exposed to as much filth. Kind of makes sense. So now we have a conflict. We got young individual and mom and dad, and we actually have space is being created. We actually have distance. We actually have a gap in the relationship is starting.
We have the parents looking at the kids going, oh my goodness, can't believe they're so ungrateful. They're so this, they don't appreciate things. They're just miserable. They want to stay in their room all day. And the energy that we're tapping into is that a lot of these ones, they can't be around the energy of their parents, of society. They came in as little super souls. And they're walking around a bunch of dead people. No kidding, they're getting pissed off.
And now they're drowning. And they are kicking and screaming, trying to fight for air to survive. And most of the moms and dads out there don't recognize these symptoms, and they don't know how to treat the illness, because a lot of the illness is in mom and dad. So you can see there's such an incredible what's the word? There is such an incredible swindle, or there is such incredible trickery going on here. That's why it's so evil at the end of the day. And that's why loved ones like us and many others around the world, and I'm going to suggest off world, that's why we're all coming together right now, because enough is enough.
And it gets complicated because there could be many parents or a couple parents raising a child, but because there's multiple parents in the mix, maybe some parents are online, some parents are offline. Now this child is caught in the middle of feeling drawn to this family member, but loyalty to this one. These poor little souls. That's why I said, no kidding, they're lost, they're mad, they're angry, they're looking for something to connect to, and there's nothing. So moving on, Deuteronomy, the next commandment talks about thou shalt not kill. And getting back just real quick, because I think that was just a little bit too quick to abrupt that, leave that that conversation. There's going to be more information, loved ones, about this. We're going to be tapping into this more. This is what our kindergarten school was all about. Teaching meditation, teaching parents how to mind their words, mind your thoughts, mind your energy, keep your cart in its own lane. Stop smashing it into other people. Start breathing, start doing the basics, showing up to these kind of classes. Good. You're going to see rewards and fruits from that. You have to. And then we're going to give you more and more tools. And we know, this is why we're trying to grab the attention of the teenagers. We know once we capture them, not in this kind of stuff, they get this. They know the vibration. They're just waiting for us to catch up. And once we do, and we need people to step in to help heal this planet, to fix it, guess what age group we're going to be targeting?
See, again, this is kind of an interesting play on this, right? Because they're not exposed to the legal system, their innocence actually holds them in a higher position than we give them credit for. And as such, we now will either blame or attack or, misdirect energy or not express the proper love that a mom and dad should have. So you can see how mom and dad and the child, everybody loses here. And it's perpetual. It just keeps continuing because we're all living in a system that puts fuel on that situation. Our environment wants that type of situation. because it's not good. It's dark. And when it's dark, it's not connected. And when it's not connected, it's not strong.
So again, we will have more information on this, but again, we are more keeping to the solutions. But again, you can't come up with a solution until you start adjusting parents to the frequency of your child and be clear, it is more times than none above yours.
And you know what, again, just, you know, respects for all the moms and dads on here right now, because all these words, again, if you were to fast forward to the end of this presentation, isn't it weird? You can literally now say to yourself, okay, now repeat some of it. And we're always, oh shit, I got to go back and watch the whole video again. It's really weird how this message, although it seems to be so loaded, we seem to retain very little of it every time we first read this, or the first time we're exposed to it, or the first time we hear it. So for moms and dads and aunts and uncles, grandma and grandpas, everybody to start hearing these messages, we're actually going to start cleaning up our spirits. We're actually going to start treating each other a little better. We're actually going to have a little bit more consideration for feelings. This is what I was getting to. The children are better at feeling. Moms and dads have checked out a little bit. They think they're dialed in and they think they got the feelings all figured out, but they don't, because all they're mostly worried about is, you know, what I got to do at work on Monday, and I got to cut the grass, and
Bills,
income tax season's coming. I got to get all my receipts ready. There's so many distractions. Mom and dad are in a very tough spot. So we want the younger generation to know, mom and dads out there, most of them are doing their best. Problem is that they need help, and there's nobody there to help them.
and so as mom and dad show signs of coming online, please help them. So we got to move through some slides here, loved ones. So just hang tight with us, okay? Because again, we're going to fire hose you a little bit. Thou shalt not kill. Well, Spirit said, well, when you gave away your soul, is that not killing yourself?
Yeah, pretty much. That's a slow suicide.
Oh,
Not very good.
owie, hurts. Okay, who's ready for a rabbit hole? Here we go. I'm excited about this one. Just so you know, we're going to talk about this commandment. Neither shalt thou commit adultery. Okay, well, let's talk about those people in the house that have marriage certificates. What's the black law version of a certificate, please, Darren?
A certificate is a written assurance. Whoa, hold the boat for a second. Look at that word assurance. What do we got in there? We got that S-U-R again. So wherever you see the S-U-R, that means that the surname and that whole legal construct is not very far behind. And oddly enough, insurance and assurance are also banking terms, legal terms. So, or official representation that some act has or has not been done, or some event occurred, or some form of legal form has been complied with.
It's an official document. Okay, well, what's an official document? What's Black's Law version of that, please?
An officer. Whoa, what do you mean an officer?
And then a what?
So a person invested with the authority of an office. Where's the office? What building is it in? Whose name's on the door? If you're an officer in the civil law, such as a minister or an apparitor of a magistrate or judge in canon law, a person to whom a bishop commits the charge of his spiritual jurisdiction in common and statute law.
We blew it up, loved ones. Person, public, person. Are we losing you? Good. Let's move on to the Crayon version of it. The certificate means a piece of paper for persons that says, good job, you did something. It recognizes your efforts and certifies you did. It's a nice little pat on the head. The Crayon version of official is a person who's important, with an important title, who has an important job that everyone knows, respects and admires, and doesn't question. So, knowing this, what is Divergence trying to say?
We're trying to say that we have to leave this military base. We don't want to be an officer. We don't want to be at war. We don't want to be a lieutenant or a private or a sergeant or a major or a general or a captain.
Because these terms apply to being on the sea, loved ones. You
These-
have to remember that.
These are all war terms. Again, these are terms that are not seen as being very well liked, because it's all about processes that take life away from other militaries and other countries and things of this nature. So in actuality here, so with regards to this certificate and this marriage concept, imagine this: when you're naturally born through nativity, you were supposed to become a bridegroom in Christ when you became old enough. That means you were supposed to take the hand of Christ, accept his teachings, and love him so he can love you first. That's almost like a wedding. Now, as soon as we put the person on, we literally got divorced from the first wedding. So now we don't have our Father's blessing. We don't have Christ's or Spirit's, good wishes.
God's not giving his blessing.
We're in a bit of a
When
trouble.
we're on Satan's military base, getting married is dead things.
It takes on a whole new idea.
Huge.
And this idea is going to have pretty bad consequences. We don't really understand it at the time. And as you'll see here, there is a way to get married properly. I've seen it in some of the acts and statutes that are hiding in the background here, where people literally make an application to leave the military base so that they can go get married properly.
This is what Darren's talking about here at the very bottom. So there is remedy for this, because people are going to say, does that mean my marriage is not valid? It's very valid on the military base. It's very, very valid in the matrix. Absolutely. As long as you're identifying as a person and that all caps name.
And it's strange, right? Because we ask for God's blessing right in the middle of that marriage ceremony, at least once. Sometimes it's in there a few times.
So let's talk about that. So here's the remedy if you are married or if you are about to get married. So here's the thing you need to know about if you are married. You are bound by a bond, a contract entered into willingly while acting dead. That's the reality of it. You can get mad, you can have a little adult tantrum, or just like, wow, we know the truth hurt, but we have to help our loved ones see and start removing some veils. Now, what happens if you're about to get married, Darren?
Well, as a matter of fact, Dean and his wife, about a year ago, they did this themselves. They create their own marriage certificate with no state on it, no numbers, no government, anything. He had a number of witnesses sign it or autograph it. I was one of them. I think there was 6 on there in total. Then you take this special private marriage certificate and you can go record it at Vital Statistics under the marriage department, and they'll take it. They took Dean's and his wife's, no problem. So if we had that option, why wouldn't more people do it? Why? Because no one's even heard of this before.
So this is the thing. We think that we are doing this and bonding your love with your spouse to Father, and you're binding it to the state. That's why you get a certificate from the state, from the province, going, here you go. Yes, you did this. And congratulations, we're in your marriage.
And if you're pledging your love and fidelity while acting in person to another person, having broken your first bond of fidelity to the first marriage, your word literally means nothing. So God, creator, actually, he's looking at this marriage going, no, I want nothing to do with this one. So, and again, this may bother people. It may not bother people, or you might find yourself somewhere in the middle.
Regardless.
You might not care. Well, and again, it doesn't
matter.
This is all to each his own. If this doesn't bother people, then just carry on.
Doesn't resonate with you, that's fine.
It's okay. Again,
All good.
but this may influence some people. This may have a little aha moment for some people.
When people who pledged their love under good pretenses, you had good intentions behind it, to find out that it was never before him, it was before Satan. It was in his house and was pledged to his state, his game. Kind of makes it a little dirty, doesn't it?
So, and again, there are quick remedies for this, and we can talk about that one day, but until that day,
breathe. Deep breath in, deep breath out, loved ones. Hang tight with us. Next law talks about thou shalt not steal. You put an interesting twist on this one.
and yet, okay, so we shouldn't steal, and yet we take a name that belongs to the state and we used it for sin instead of taking a good name in Christ and staying clean. It looks like we made a bit of a mistake there. So you can literally say we broke that one too. So now does it matter that you go steal a loaf of bread or you go steal a car? No, you've actually stolen something much worse than a car, much worse than a loaf of bread. But nobody knows about being, the one who is stealing something every day when we act in person.
Look at that. That was like 8 o'clock, right on the dot. Look at that timing. Kim, my queen, is going, Jody, do you see how many slides you have? But we wanted to move it quicker to keep you more entertained. We're not so stuck on a slide. It keeps you more engaged. Throw more pictures at you to help you remember. This is the whole idea behind this. We're dumping massive information, talking about stuff that normally kids want nothing to do with. But if we can tweak that in a way that they can all of a sudden go, oh, or the parents can go, wow. I can already tell there's a ripple we're sending out, especially about the marriages.
Yeah, it's
that was an owie. I know.
Again,
but they tricked us.
So a marriage certificate, a birth certificate, a house occupancy certificate. It's all the same stuff.
It's a good for you. You did it.
It's all the same program, loved ones, operating in the background. It doesn't really matter what the certificate says. It's all pledging allegiance to something that we never should have in the first place. And now it's up to us to actually do something about this. Otherwise, we're all doomed, literally doomed. We're either going to come back, repeat this life over again because we haven't figured it out, or else we get to go swim in a lake of fire. Take your pick. Either way it isn't ending well until we finally do something about it. Now, we're going to start doing something about it here pretty soon. And probably within the next few episodes, you're going to start to feel the flavor of these episodes start to turn. We're actually going to start talking about, okay, so what would I say? What would I actually write on that marriage certificate? How should I actually make an application for a driver's license?
Or when my child is born.
We're actually going to start dropping some actual substance here.
Because we have it.
And these notices. So we have to go through a few more words and we have to set the stage a little bit more with how to build these things that are going to actually, it's literally building a bridge. Do you want to build a bridge with 2 or 3 logs and you can't even see the other side of the shore? The lake is actually that large. How much work are you going to get done with 3 logs? See, we need 300 logs. We need 3,000 logs. The more material we have to build bridges, to fix gates, to mend our houses spiritually, the better we're going to be equipped to actually build this efficiently, clearly, and accurately.
Ace it. Accurately, clearly, and easily. Close. Okay. And with that, loved ones, we do have a new channeled equity chakra clearing meditation, and Kim is going to be putting that together. We also have the equity quickie meditation. Loved ones, Darren and I, we don't even know how to, well, we do, but we love and value those 7 minutes when we can connect with equity and source.
It's nice because usually everything is such a fluster. Usually we're finishing recording or usually we're finishing putting these presentations together minutes before we hit start.
Shoveling food.
As a matter of fact, a lot of times I don't even see what this program is about. I don't even see it until I'm reading it for the first time, because the queens are here actually doing all this stuff in the background while I'm doing paperwork, trying to help other people, trying to get court processes done, trying to get notices developed. I actually put very little input into the building of these things. And none of the very little of this is me. So again, thanks to the queens and Jody and the other loved ones who actually input and contribute all of this stuff that you're looking at. And again, at the end of 21 of these episodes, you got 21-ish hours of stuff to look at. And every one of these episodes is pretty loaded. I mean, I know there's a little bit of overlap between
You need it.
yeah, the recap is important. We're not doing it here to waste your time. We want to make it so that if someone approaches you on the street tomorrow and says, hey, are you acting in person there, Bob? If you're Bob, you might want to know what your better answer is. So again, we're not, we're doing this for good reasons. We're doing this with proper intent. We're trying to build a base or a foundation so that when we start building our house isn't just going to get blown over in the wind.
This man has repeated things to me over and over. If you go back on his videos, he repeats it to us loved ones over and over. He has told the remedy so many times. That's why we giggle when people are like, I need more remedy. Stop your snapping. We've already given it, but it's over your head. It's the vibration. You can't feel it yet. So catch up.
So we're doing everything we can here to help fill in some blanks. Add a couple pieces to the puzzle, shine a little light or add a little bit of clarity to little parts and pieces. And then once it's so neat when a little piece falls into place and boom, now that whole puzzle is done. Next puzzle. But is that puzzle complete when you're missing that one part right in the middle? No, it's not complete. It's not finished. So now we have to, we got to go find that one little piece. So rather than you loved ones going and spending 25, 35, 45 years researching all this stuff,
down endless rabbit holes.
It's hard. It's the hardest thing I've ever had to do. And yet I've never loved anything more than doing this. Kind of an interesting twist, which is why we're so motivated to continue doing what we do. And we're not going to stop. And as the remedies start coming down, and as we start talking about paperwork, and as we start developing sentences and paragraphs and introductory clauses and stating components and charging parts and that
went right over your head. It's supposed to.
There's so much.
Okay, that's Black Law version.
There's
Crayon version coming.
There's so much stuff coming that we literally have to slow it down. Otherwise, you're never gonna get where we really want you to go.
That was a whole bunch of blah 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 blah. I didn't even catch 60% of that.
Or 90. Or 90.
Yeah. Okay. Fine. 90% of it. But a couple words, I'm like, I know what that means.
There.
Why? Because it had to sink in. I had to hear it multiple times. I had to see it on forms. I had to write it. I had to touch it. I had to say it. Teach it. There's multiple things in play here.
And this is where when you start talking to other people in your family and in your immediate environment of loved ones, people you care about, when they start coming to you and saying, hey, why are you so happy? And you're like, well, I actually just developed a notice of a deed of trust. And I actually had a lot to do with it. I actually built a lot of it. And I'm just excited to get this thing in the mail. And the person you're talking to is like, what the hell are you talking about?
That's nice.
What? But
that's literally what most of the people will say. Even if you tell them anything that you believe in as far as a higher dimension, people go, yeah, that's nice.
And again, but rightfully so, because you just approached them with a whole other language, and yet it was still
they heard wah, wah, wah.
Yeah, they heard Charlie Brown, but yet you're actually still talking English. So they're like,
and equity is English that we can't understand.
Yeah,
it's no different. So there's no, look at these ones, they're so far behind. Well, guess what? We could say that too of you. He could say that of me.
I'm far behind. And I've been doing this the bulk of my life.
Let's talk some equalism.
Yes. So again, the equalism here, we're going to start dropping a little bit more of that on every episode, just to develop these principles and these ideas, just to start getting your heads flowing with us.
And so that our newer loved ones don't feel intimidated or embarrassed to ask questions. And we know there's a lot that are wanting to ask questions, but they don't use big words like Big Kahuna. And bless Big Kahuna, but Big Kahuna knows a shit. You don't. Most of you don't. So it's okay if you ask a greenhorn question. I want crayon questions because guess what? These advanced ones that give us questions, I got to crayon them. You're just extra work for me. So if anything, take your red questions and orange and green them for me then, please.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Yeah, absolutely. And Big Kahuna, Hey, I got to give you kudos, gentlemen. Thank you. You always show up for us. We appreciate that. So, and again, there's more and more loved ones. I'm a McLaren or another gentleman on our Telegram chat who's just a wealth of information.
Everybody here has incredible possibilities, just waiting for them around the corner. That's why you're so intrigued. That's why you're here.
And Serena's pointing at someone.
He's actually on the chat. Look, David, House Mac Lucas. Hi.
Oh,
Yes.
okay, there you go.
Shout out to that gentleman. Thank you very much. Oh,
Yeah,
there he is.
yeah.
It's great when people have different names. Please understand that kind of throws us off a little bit, but we do now see the last name there. So thank you for that. But absolutely, thank you to these veterans.
Keep the vibration high, loved ones. Keep sharing, keep teaching, keep putting it out there.
We love you.
Keep importing, keep exporting, keep the energies moving around. When you think you're slow, when you're having a slow day, it's probably for a reason, because tomorrow is going to be crazy. So
And that's why we're coming out with meditations for you loved ones. Listen to them. Take time for them. Come on, you want to get to equity, you need to let it work through you and bring you up to it. You got to start doing something different if you want it. It's going to be more than just showing up for these classes. This is not like in 3 weeks, we give you a form and you walk through the equity's doors. Come on now. If you're going to be chosen, that takes more than 3 weeks. We want to see you rise. We want to see your faces. We want to see how you contribute.
But we want to keep you excited. We want to keep you moving forward. We want to keep you learning. I would love if all of you got to a point where you're able to start drafting your own paperwork. And again,
I'm not even there. Okay. So if that makes you feel better, I'm going to be learning a shit ton with this gentleman too.
and the Crayon versions of the paperwork are going to be exciting, because I think we're actually going to do some of them in Crayon.
Yeah,
There
we
you
will.
Because here's why: handwriting trumps typed face all day long in equity. Equity doesn't want to see computer stuff. Nope. There's no life in it. Don't do it.
And we've been getting some information to keep it simple. It could be done on a crayon and a napkin.
You can. Again, my brother proved that several times, and so did I a couple of times actually. So
Purple crayon.
It
better.
does.
That's why we love purple.
it does work. We've been there. We've done it. That's why we're here. And that's why we're going to keep giving it to you guys as fast and furious as we can, with a big love bow wrapped on it.
Now we're a few minutes over. Sorry about that, but we had to give you a few more little readings at the end. Send you some extra love. Make sure you listen to these over and over again, and need some time to sink in. This is why we keep repeating it. Until tomorrow, loved ones. We will see you then. Thank you.